Hello, and thank you for joining me for this free training where I'm going to teach you how to craft your brand visuals without requiring loads of creativity. It's a very systematic process. So for those of you who have taken my Website 101 course, or if you are one of my QUICKSELL Kit students, then you know that the way that I generally teach creating mood boards starts with the verbals, meaning we first define 3 to 5 words to really set the tone for your brand. And then we go into Pinterest using my search and scroll maneuver and strategically pin and then curate a mood board of images to translate that verbal expression of your brand to the visual. Now, in this training, however, I want to do the reverse. I want to start with the images and that visual expression of the brand, and then I'm going to translate it to the verbal. And I'm going to be doing this for my new brand, AltWell, which is alternative wellness tips for time-starved women that really want to maximize their health and well-being while minimizing the time and energy invested in doing so. And it's going to be really titrated, to the point, digestible doses of information that are backed in research and fun. So anyway, for that brand, I'm going to need to use stock photos. And so the thing about using stock photos well is that you really need to be careful when you're curating them so that you're selecting images that aren't the same ones that you see all over the internet. Whether or not you source them from free stock sites doesn't matter. It just matters that you're doing so in a way that aligns with your brand aesthetic and isn't just the same ones that other people in your space might be using. Also, you want to pay attention to how you are editing or retouching the photos so that they all act cohesively together as part of your brand. Now, for this training, I've already pulled some images, both from Pinterest and Unsplash, and another stock place that I feel like I might want to use on my website. And so in this training together, we're going to curate those photos into a mood board. And then once I've created that mood board, I have a series of questions, a mood board analysis that I like to go through in order to translate that visual aesthetic into more tangible verbal format. And this is then going to help me when I'm trying to pick out colors and choose fonts to have that more tangible understanding of the brand. And then lastly, if there's time, because I do want to keep this training to 30 minutes, I'm going to walk you through how to create a typographic-based logo. So it's important to note here that this marks the first step in the website design process. However, this is not the first step in designing a website in general, right? This is the first step in design, not the first step in building your website. So actually, there are 4 steps that you need to do before beginning a mood board. First, your goals. You need to get clear on your business objectives for the website. Why are you making it? What do you hope to get out of it? 2, your customer or client. You need to do some undercover research and really get to know what it is that they need, what they want, what are they struggling with. And then you can think about how you can offer them a solution. 3, you want to look at the market, the competitive landscape. What is already out there? Where are the gaps? And how can you position yourself as different and unique? And number 4, bring it all together in a USP, a unique selling proposition. It's a one-liner statement that says what you do, who you serve, and how you help them. So once you have those 4 foundational pieces, then it's totally cool to start your mood board. And then from there, I would go into the copy, write your page copy, and then dive into the brand visuals. And I actually teach the entire website prep process as super affordable. It's $7, and you can get that on my website, craftingcreative.com/101. And I will link to that in the description of this post to make it easy for you. So for this project, I've already done the undercover research. I've already done the market competitive analysis, and I've even written my copy already. So I'm totally good to go when it comes to doing these brand visuals. All right, so we've covered everything that you need to know. And now I'm going to switch modes, share my screen, and we're going to get started. And just to recap what we're going to do, first, curate a mood board based on the photos that I've already selected. Then analyze that mood board to define some tangible verbal words to describe it. Then we're going to choose 3 to 5 colors that I'll use for my brand, select 2 fonts, and then lastly, if there's time within the 30 minutes, I'm going to create a simple typographic-based logo so you can see that's really super easy and you don't need to hire a designer to make a logo. All right, let's do it. Okay, so this is my sketch document where I've pulled in the images. These ones on the left I've just taken from Pinterest, so I can't actually use them on my site. But these on the right side are all free stock photos, so I will be able to use those if I decide to. And then what I want to do is curate these into a mood board, and then I can define the colors and the fonts and even the logo from there. So first I'm just going to look through these and thinking about the website Altwell, alternative wellness, unconventional, unexpected, for women that want something a little bit different than what's normally prescribed, maybe for busy professional women even. So keeping in mind those things, even a touch of like laziness to it. So that's kind of what I have in the back of my mind as I'm looking at these images. And then I just want to pull out ones that resonate with that for me. And then I'm going to drag them over into the mood board section. So right off the bat, I'm just loving this one with the beet and the knife, because to me it just looks like kind of like death of the beets. Something about that just seems very alternative. And also it's showing vegetables, which I am vegan. This is going to be about like plant-based primarily tips. And so I definitely want to include this image on my site. So I'm going to pull that into my mood board. And I'm going to shrink it down. This is my mood board template that has space for 16 images. I don't think I'm going to get 16 into this one, which is totally fine. So for now, I'm just going to put that there. And let's go back to these photos. So on the left from Pinterest, I have that really cozy, lazy, easy kind of vibe. And then I'm noticing here, like these photos kind of retro, outdoorsy. This also fits in more with that coziness, so I think I do need to add that. Plus I love avocado, so that's gonna go in the mood board. And then these are kind of like alternative. You notice in the shadow how she's displaying her hands up like that, so I like that vibe. I'm gonna put that in here. I also like that it's not, a full frontal face picture. It's kind of like an abstract detail. I also like this is very alternative, kind of funny. I'm not sure if it will fit on the site. This, it's humorous, but I would never eat those donut thingies, so no. I think I am gonna pull this one over too. And then even though I can't use these Pinterest images on my site, I can use them in my mood board just to derive that overall aesthetic. So I definitely want to grab this coffee one because I am a coffee lover. That's going to be a big part of my wellness brand. Then I like this one because it's also, for time-starved women. They have families, they have jobs, and so this kind of community, friend, family aspect of it is going to be important for them. So now I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. So I ended up with 5 photos. So I only need 5 boxes in the background. Okay, so in Sketch, this is super easy. You just click R to make a rectangle, and then off you go. You can hold down the Option key, click and drag to easily duplicate. You can hold down the Option key and see how far away you are from everything, which is incredible. I don't know why the fuck Adobe doesn't do that. It's impossible to get measurings right in Adobe. That's why Sketch is just so much better. Now that I have these, I am going to use them as a mask. So you can see, even though I started out with space for 16 photos, I'm only going to use 5, and that's okay. There's not a predetermined number, like you definitely have to have 9 photos in your mood board. It might even be easier with fewer photos. Oh, I actually have 6 photos. That's okay. It's okay. I can make another one. So there we have it. I have now put together my quick and easy mood board based on these images that I had already pulled out from Pinterest and from some free stock photo sites. Now what I want to do is ask a series of mood board analysis questions. Now this mood board analysis sheet is part of my QUICKSELL Kit program. So if you were a student of that, you would have access to this. But it's just a few questions to help you bring that tangible, definitive, verbal aspect to this visual brand. So the first question is my mood board more bold or is it more subdued? So looking at this, looking at the colors, the textures, I think it is pretty subdued. This one is pretty bold, this one has some boldness to it, so on the spectrum from bold to subdued, it's hard to say. I would say it's slightly more subdued, but if I wanted to bring the overall vibe of the brand more to the bold side, then that's something I could consider when I'm choosing my colors and fonts. So I'm just going to make a note of this here. Next question. Is my mood board more modern / contemporary, or is it more retro? So I'm definitely getting a retro vibe from this. Is it more calm or is it more chaotic? Chaotic. And lastly, is it more refined, luxurious, or is it more like organic and natural? Definitely more organic. Okay, so now we have this image of the brand as organic, chaotic, retro, and yet slightly subdued. So now using those, it's going to be easier for me to select fonts and colors. So first, for the colors, what I like to do, I have 5 here. You could go with as few as 3 and no more than 5, I would say. So here, I click my little circle, click my fill, the eyedropper tool, and then I can just go in here. So I'm seeing some colors already. We have this sort of red berry beet color. Yeah, a beet, not a berry. So we have this like berry red, right? There is yellowish gold aspects here, the greens, and then this beige neutral color. So I think those are what I'm going to try to pick up on. And then I want to get a dark tone, maybe from the coffee or from this bag, and then we'll see where we're at. So you can see there are parts of that beet that are almost as rich as the suspender straps in the image below. So I might just play with this, get it slightly more toward the fuchsia side. And because I want to bring up the bold a little bit, because it's slightly towards subdued, I don't want it to be too muted. So I'm going to try that for now. Now let's see about that gold yellow. I always like to sample from like 2 or 3 of the photos where I'm finding that sort of color so that I can look at them both and see which one I like more, where the commonalities are. Now we're going to go for that green. So we have a green in the beet greens, and we have a green in the avocado. Okay, now for that sort of ivory tan color. And then one dark color. Okay, so these colors look about right based on this mood board. And now I can start to think about which one would my primary color be. I think maybe I would go with like these 3 neutrals mostly, and then I would reserve this bright one to be my call to action button. And then this dark could be like the text color. And then for the fonts, again, let's drag down my words here. get into the fonts. So I want to define at a minimum the headings 1, 2, and 3, and then the normal body text. It's also good to define a block quote style. So this is going to be for your testimonials, and then even a heading 4 is good. So because I'm looking for something a little retro, a little chaotic, a little organic, I'm thinking maybe my heading 1 might be a hand-drawn font, or maybe not my heading 1, but maybe my heading 3. It can be almost like an accent font that I use a sort of hand-drawn or maybe like retro distressed looking kind of font. So the way that I like to look at this to be able to see all the fonts that I have in my local computer is to go to a website called wordmark.it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up right now, and then just enter a word or a phrase. We will click load more fonts. You can also show fonts from Google. I like to just start with what I have on my local machine, especially since I'm looking right now for that sort of accent font. So then you can just scroll through, and what you do is just click on one that you want to select. And then once you've selected a few, we can filter those out. So just in terms of thinking about fonts, when you think about a modern font, that would be something called a sans serif, where it doesn't have any of those serifs on the font, whereas a more retro font would be something like a serif, where it does have that. So that's something I can think about. Maybe I want to use a serif font because that is more retro, and then I'll use an accent font to bring in that organic nature, and then something very simple for the body text. And if I were doing the logo right now, I would have typed in the name of my brand, so Altwell, and then I would just go through and I would look at the way that it's written in all the different fonts I have on my machine, and then I would select a few that I would like to play around some more with, and then I would download those, and I would just go into Sketch and start designing with those fonts and seeing how it looks, and maybe mixing and matching a couple of them together. A good thing to keep in mind, since I am considering doing 3 fonts rather than 2, is if I can find a font family that comes both in the serif and the sans serif, so that I can use one for my headline and one for my body text. That way I already know that those work very, very well together, and bringing in my accent font won't be overwhelming visually. So because PT serif and PT sans are actually of the same family, I already know that those two are going to go great together. So that might be something that works well for my brand if I do want to go with that accent handwritten style kind of font. So this one is chaotic and organic, right? I can consider that. It also looks like it would go well with that beat knife photo because it has a little bit of edge to it. The other thing I have to keep in mind, like, this is cool, but I can't read it at all. So the font needs to be readable. This one is nice, but I see it everywhere, so don't want to use that. This one has an alternative sort of vibe to me, so I like that. This one actually has a slight distressing to it, so it's a little bit organic in that way, and it also looks retro because of the way it's lettered. And you don't need to worry about these fonts being in Squarespace already, because I actually have a tutorial and code snippet in my code shop that walks you through exactly how to set up and use a custom font the right way for Squarespace, and it's $15, so super affordable. And I'm trying to edit myself a little bit in this point. I'm not just taking everything that stands out to me, because I want to make it easier on myself once I get into Sketch. Alright, so I think that is good. I think I've gone through enough of them, and I'm going to go with what I've chosen already for the next step. So what I do now is click Filter Selected, then click Save Image. That's going to go to my Downloads folder, and then I can grab it and bring it into Sketch. Before I do that, I just want to show you fontpair.co. So say I know for sure I definitely want to use a sans serif mixed with a serif, and I want the serif to be for the headlines and the sans serif to be for the body. So what I can do, fontpair.co, is just click the serif for the headlines, sans serif for the body, and then it gives me some pre-paired font selections that go really well together. So this actually has a very retro sort of feel to it. So this is not a bad pair. I actually like that. So what I could do is download this font pair for free. Okay, so I could get crazy into looking at fonts, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to go with what I have and make some selections. So just pulling in what I took from Word Market here. Now I want to look at these again next to my words. Okay, so we already said that because I want more bold in the colors, it's best if I pull it back a little bit on the fonts, make it more subdued, not so bold. So for that reason, probably would rule out these. Also, I'm not really liking that one as much. This one seems too feminine. I like this one because it looks very planty. This one is a little bold. So I think from the handwritten options, I would go with one of these two. And then for the main headlines, I think I would go with PT Serif or Noto Serif, and then for the body, either PT Sans or Noto Sans. If I were going to do, 3 different fonts. So right now I just want to put that on here and see how it looks, if it goes together or not. So first I'm going to change the heading 1 to be PT Sans. Remember, I'm less bold in the fonts. So, I want the headings to be the serif, so PT Serif. Then the heading 3 is where I was thinking of testing out the more handwritten font. So let's first try Graduate Script. And then for the body, I would use PT Sans. So that actually, it doesn't look bad together. It's not competing, I don't think, but there's not a lot of contrast between the text. It's because it's all regular. I think I need to add some boldness to it. Okay, and then what I would do is move this up so that I can take a look all of it together with the colors, with the images, and see the kind of feel that I'm getting from it. So I actually think it could work. I think this could work with those colors and the imagery. I do want to try the other handwritten font here, which is Hello Lucky. So let's even take this up here on top of the images, put a little background behind it. Just images, colors, the moodboard. This one versus the Graduate Script one. Yeah, I like the Graduate Script. I feel like it has a nice contrast with the boldness of like this image and the colors. It also has that planty vine kind of feel to it. Okay, so I like that for my accent. Now, again, let's try, instead of PT Serif here, maybe I want to do Noto Serif. It's another one of the font families that does have both serif and sans serif. And I don't know if you can, notice this, but the main difference that I see from between PT and Noto is that the Noto is a little bit wider than the other one. And I like it. So then the other thing is I did download a few of those font pairs. I'm going to take a look at those too before I make my final decision. So one of the hand-drawn fonts that I had downloaded was called Amatic. So let's see how that looks in here. There's a regular and a bold version. I actually like that. I do like that. But do I like it better than Graduate? That's the thing. It's not easy to pick. There's no one right answer. So sometimes, if I'm really, really going back and forth on a font, like this one that I want to use for the accents, what I'm going to do right now is select the other fonts, the ones for the headings and for the body, and then I'm going to leave the accent font to be either the Amatic or the Graduate Script, and then once I start designing the homepage and putting it in, and then I can see it together with everything, that's when I'm going to be able to make my final selection. And that's totally okay if you have to get that far along before you can nail down, as long as it's only with one thing that you're testing. It's like an A/B test on one thing. It's not like multiple balls in the air or decisions to be made. So it's going to be one of these. So I'm going to leave them both there. Okay, so one of the font pairs that I downloaded was with Free Serif and Open Sans. But to me, the Brie Serif is a little bit too bold for what I'm going for. So I'm going to say no to that combination. The other one I downloaded was for Cantata 1 and Imprima. So it did look cool when it was paired together on that site, but now that I'm seeing it here with everything, it doesn't work, and it doesn't allow me to do the accent font because it's just way too much going on. And then the final pair that I downloaded to try out is with Ovo and Muy. And I think that's nice. There's some kind of like cuteness to those headings. The thing that I do need to be aware of though, if I were to go with this heading, there is no italic, there is no bold, there's only the regular font weight. And so that's something that I would need to be aware of. Let's put this back with the Noto Sans. So if I were to go with Ovo, like this one definitely doesn't work with it. So I'm going to stick with what I had pretty much settled on before, which is I'm going to be using Noto Serif for heading 1 and heading 2. I'm going to be using an accent font for heading 3, either Amatic or Graduate Script. And then for the body copy, I'm going to be using Noto Sans, the regular style. Okay, so you can see here it is. I have my mood board, I have my fonts basically picked out, and then my colors here. The one thing that I did note was that this brown is a little bit too dark for me. I actually changed it here, so I like what that ended up being better. So I'm going to sample that. There we go. So now I feel good about it. Let's even take a look at what having a button would look like here. Because sometimes to really see the effect of the color, we just have to start playing with it. When it's here in this little circle, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, that looks nice together. Then when we try to design with it, it seems too much. I can make my text to be all this dark color that I've chosen. I can test out using a different color for the button. Bring it a little bit down, a little bit more muted. Yep, I think that works better with beat. The beat picture doesn't work as well with these suspenders, but you could always add a sort of overlay to this image to try to give it more of that berryness. But yeah, I'm not going to get into the photo editing now, so you could definitely play around with these colors way too much. Okay, I actually like this now, bringing a little bit more red and less of the magenta into it. Now I think it works with both of them. Okay, so that's going to be the final beat color. And it works better for like a food situation. Okay, so I've got my colors, I've got all my fonts except for one that I'm going to A/B test during the design, and have my mood board established with my sort of descriptive words here. Alright, so that is how you prepare for the visual aspect of your brand. So unfortunately, we didn't really have time today to do that typographic logo. However, that's something I've already done a tutorial for in the past on my blog, so I'll make sure to link to that in this post description as well. And then next week, we'll actually be designing a page on my site together. So I will see you next Friday.